What's going on, guys? It's Brandon back here again today. Second video of the day. This is going to be going up on Wednesday, I believe. Today, what day is it today? Today is Monday. Yeah, this will go up on Wednesday because the video tomorrow it will be the Stanley Cup Final preview. But I need to get this done so I can have the whiteboard accessible. So we have a new season to cover today. We covered the 2004-2005 season, the lockout season. We've gone over a bunch of stuff that happened, buyouts, compliance buyouts, the timeline of the lockout, retirements, and now we got an actual season to compare it to. This is like how it's going to be through this series going up to modern time, as well as when we go backwards once we finish modern time. So 2005-2006, there's some rule changes. The trapezoid is now a thing in hockey. The two-line pass it has been removed, or like the whole rule of it being offside is now it's obsolete. Removing the trap from the game. Size is no longer the name of the game; it's speed. And shootouts also exist now. The shootout is implemented in 2005-2006 to just spice up the end of the game. There are no more ties. The categories are wins, losses, overtime losses, including shootout losses. And there's no four categories. It used to be wins, losses, ties, and overtime losses. So let's get right into it with the standings. To start off, we have the Central Division. Detroit leads the way with winning the President's Trophy at 58-16-8, 124 points. Nashville then comes in second in that division, 49-25-8, 106 points. Those two above the line makes the playoffs. Below the line does not. So trying to get my camera a little bit more. Oh, nope, don't do that. Don't want it to fall over. Columbus, 35-43-4, 74 points. Not a half bad season out of Columbus. Chicago, 26-43-13, 65 points. St. Louis bottoms out. They trade Pronger, McInnes retires, and the entire bottom just falls out of St. Louis as they finish with a league worst 57 points, 21-46-15. And, for St. Louis, it's funny, they kind of bottom out and then they're kind of just middling the rest of the time. Northwest Division, that's what it was called at the time. Calgary, 46-25-11 leads the way, 103 points. Colorado, 43-30-9 with 95 points. Colorado's descent has already started. I mean, Waz have been gone for a couple of years now, but Sakic is old. Forsberg's gone, among other pieces as well. Edmonton, 41-28-13, gets in at the 8th seed, 95 points. We'll come back to them. Vancouver, 42-32-8, just outside the playoffs at 92 points. Minnesota, 38-36-8 with 84 points. So that's a pretty solid division right there in the Northwest. Every team has a winning record. And the Pacific's not too bad either. Dallas leads the way at 53-23-6 with 112 points. San Jose, 44-27-11 with 99. The Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, which they're still called, 43-27-12 with 98 points, so 1 point back. They get the number 6 spot. I believe Colorado got number 7 because both of these teams got 95. Vancouver got 92. LA then 42-35-5 misses out with 89 points. Not a bad record. And then Phoenix 38-39-5, 81 points there. In the East, New Jersey leads the what division? What division was that called again? Because I know you got the Atlantic, you got the Southeast. It wasn't the Northwest. It wasn't the Metro at the time either. Maybe this was the Atlantic, and I think that was the Northeast Division. That's what it was. So this is the Atlantic. Funny because none of these teams are in the Atlantic Division now. 46-27-9 with 101 points is New Jersey. Philadelphia, 45-26-11, also 101 points. The Rangers back in the playoffs after missing it for many years previous because they just kept getting older. They wanted to just keep bringing back veterans and said, this is going to work, throw money at everything, and it never did. But now they got youth coming in by a goaltender with the name of Henrik Lundqvist. 44-26-12, 100 points for the Rangers. So 3 teams all within a point of each other. The Islanders, 36-40-6, 78 points. Pittsburgh, 22-46-14. Crosby and Fleury are not enough to help this team, 58 points. In the Northeast Division, Ottawa leads the way. Big year for Ottawa. Remember, 2004-05 is the lost year for Ottawa, and they make it count here. 52-21-9, 113 points. Buffalo follows with 52-24-6, 110 points. Montreal's in at 42-31-9 with 93 points. And out of the playoffs, this is where the drought begins. Toronto, 41, 33, and 8 with 90 points. Boston 29, 37, and 16. They're going through some stuff still. 74 points. Carolina leads the Southeast Division. Big year for Carolina. 52, 22, and 8, 112 points. Tampa Bay, defending Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay after 2 seasons. 43, 33, and 6, 92 points. They're the last team in at the 8th seed. Atlanta just misses their first playoff appearance at 41, 33, and 8 with 90 points. Florida 37, 34, and 11 with 85 points. And Washington, Ovechkin cannot save this team, 29, 41, and 12 at 70 points. So, what we can see here is that the thing at the time was the Southeast Division is not very good. Of course, I'm 2 years old, 2 years old in this season. I don't remember it, obviously. But the Southeast Division, even when I was young, was considered just horrible. One team makes it, maybe 2, and an absolute miracle 3. I'm not even sure if that ever happened. But Carolina, they were kind of counted out as a playoff team because they were seen as they just ate off their division opponents. I mean, it's not like Florida and Atlanta were bad, and Tampa was a playoff team, and they were defending Stanley Cup champions. And you think that narrative would have worn off? It did not. In terms of other teams, Toronto was 2 points out of a playoff spot. That becomes a bit of a narrative here in the late 2000s. Boston, they're going through some stuff. They had a Hart Trophy winner on the roster, which they traded. Rare time when the Hart Trophy candidate is traded mid-season. Other news around here? I think that's about it. So we can get into the playoffs. Number 1 Detroit versus number 8 Edmonton. So I got seeds right here, and I got how many games it takes to eliminate them on the left. Edmonton takes out Detroit in 6. 8-1. Unbelievable. 124 points to 95 points. Edmonton beats them in 6, and it's a shocker. Dwayne Rolison becomes a folk hero, and very big, very huge, just upset right there. Colorado, the 7th seed, takes out number 2 seeded Dallas in 5. So although Dallas beats Colorado this year, those early 2000s there, Colorado had Dallas's number. And even with the team that they have is starting to fall out of contention, still able to beat Dallas, which shows that Dallas is also falling out of contention. Calgary at number 3 loses in 7 games to number 6 Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. So 3 of the bottom seeds out, and it continues in the number 4 matchup. Nashville at number 4 seed loses to the number 5 seed San Jose Sharks in 5 games. So Nashville, much better team than they were now. That 2004, they got their first taste of playoffs. They go out and get some big free agents. And it's not enough. Sorry that I heard something in the background. In the East, Ottawa and Tampa, number 1 versus number 8. Ottawa takes out Tampa Bay in 5. Everything goes as planned in the East. Carolina takes out Montreal in 6, number 2 versus number 7. And the big thing that happens in that series is Cam Ward. Cam Ward comes in for Martin Gerber in game 2. Can't save them from the loss there, but in game 3 in his first start, he took off. Cam Ward, Blackhawks legend, took off, and they never looked back after that. New Jersey takes out number 3 seeded New Jersey, takes out number 6 seeded the Rangers in 4. Lungfist was not enough to say. And then number 4 seeded Buffalo takes out number 5 seeded Philadelphia in 6 games as well. Philadelphia, of course, we'll see what happens to them in the next season. But their Philadelphia's big, mean, grinding style, it doesn't really work in this NHL. This is one about speed and size, and some of their free agent signings, which we'll get to, free agents and trades we'll get to at the end of this, that's something that will really keep Philadelphia down for a year, and then they'll rise right back up. Second round, 5th seeded San Jose loses to 8th seeded Edmonton in 6 games. So a 5th seed with home ice, and the 8th seed Edmonton takes them out. And now Edmonton's crazy. 8th seed going on a run. Not unheard of prior to this. There were definitely Cinderella runs in years prior. Of course, Carolina not too long previous in 2002. The Devils in 95 were sort of a Cinderella, even though they were a 5th seed. But Edmonton at this point, 8th seeds going to the final was unheard of. I'm not sure if an 8th seed ever did go to the final until this Edmonton series, or this Edmonton team. Mighty Ducks of Anaheim beat Colorado in 4. So they kind of just swat them aside, and they're on their own run as well. In the East, number 1 seeded Ottawa loses to number 4 seeded Buffalo in 5 games. And of course, Buffalo's wearing those beautiful black and white Buffalo jerseys. They need to go back to that. Any other jersey they've had has just been bad. I never liked Buffalo. Honestly, I prefer the Buffa Slug over the one that they have now. Like the one with the Buffalo and the sabers crossed. The one they had in the 70s. And then the one they've had from like 2013 on. Never was a fan of that look. And then Carolina, they beat New Jersey, the veteran team. Number 2 seeded Carolina beats number 3 seeded New Jersey in 5 games. Conference final. Number 8 seed Edmonton takes out the number 6 seed Mighty Ducks of Anaheim in 5. Edmonton now, it's taken 6, 12, 17 games, and they're in the final. And then Carolina, and after watching this series back, I honestly can't believe Carolina won this series, but they end up taking out Buffalo in 7 games. The number 2 beats the number 4 there, and we have our Stanley Cup final. Number 2 seeded Carolina in the East versus the number 8 seeded Edmonton Oilers in the West. Edmonton, of course, in the finals this year. This was the last time they were there. Game 1, Carolina is down 3-0. They're down 3-0, and then they start a comeback. It's 3-1, it's 3-2, it's 3-3, it's 4-3. Then Hemsky scores, I believe, to make it 4-4. Late in the game, Dwayne Rollison gets hurt. People forget that Carolina was down 3-0 and they came back against this, and they say if Rollison was in, they would have won. It's very possible if Rollison was in, Edmonton would have won the series. However, he was not in because Ladd and another defender go crashing into him, Blackhawks legend Andrew Ladd, and Rollison's out for the series. And it was a huge blow for the Oilers, to say the least. Ty Conklin goes in, and with 32 seconds left in the game, Rod Brind'Amour, he gets the winner in that one as the Carolina steals Game 1, 5-4. They had no business being in that game. I know Chris Pronger scored on a penalty shot. Fernando Persani was a huge story in that playoffs. I never really got back to where he was. Blackhawks legend Fernando Persani. Maybe that's a career video this summer. Game 2, Carolina comes out and they blow the doors out of Edmonton. UC Markkanen in net now. It's 5-0, and that's 10 goals over 2 games for Carolina. Game 3 in Edmonton. Edmonton takes that one 2-1. Carolina says, okay, we can play that way too. Game 4, Carolina wins 2-1. And they're up 3-1 on the Oilers. Game 5, Carolina ties, I'm not sure if it was Carolina or Edmonton that ties the game, but they send it to overtime. Carolina gets a power play in overtime. Mishandle of the puck, I believe, I want to say it was Stillman and Stahl that kind of mishandled the puck. And Fernando Pisani comes the other way, shoots, scores. We're going back to Edmonton for Game 6, in which Edmonton wins 4-0 at home and forces a Game 7. Then in Game 7, Carolina wins 3-1. Eric Stahl leads the playoffs in points, 25 games, 9 goals, 19 assists, 28 points. Cam Ward, 15-8 with a .920 save percentage, 2.14 goals against. He's your Conn Smythe winner. Although I could have given it to Rod Brind'Amour as well. Rod Brind'Amour was absolutely fantastic throughout these playoffs. Trophy winners. Art Ross goes to Joe Thornton of both the Boston Bruins and San Jose Sharks. He led the league in points that year with 29 goals, 96 assists, 125 points. Of course, McDavid and Kucherov both had 100 assist seasons this year. Unseen before like this. Masterton goes to Teemu Selanne. I believe that's for dedication to the game, if I remember correctly. He's with the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. The Calder goes to Alexander Ovechkin because he was robbed of his rookie year. I believe he had 50-something goals that year, and then he had 106 points. Crosby had 102. Conn Smythe goes to Cam Ward, as previously mentioned. The Selke goes to Rod Brind'Amour of those Carolina Hurricanes as well. Selke Trophy, that's I've already been there. Hart goes to Joe Thornton as well, so he gets the Art Ross, he gets the Hart. People forget how good Joe Thornton was when in the early 2000s. Of course, his playing career just ended now. The Jack Adams goes to Lindy Ruff of the Buffalo Sabres. The Norris goes to Nicholas Lindstrom because that's all it goes to in this time. The King Clancy goes to Olaf Kolzig of the Washington Capitals. He's still there. Lady Byng, Pavel Datsyuk, I believe he wins 3 or 4 of these in a row. That's for gentlemanly play. The Pearson, which is now the Ted Lindsay Award, goes to Jonathan Cheechoo of the San Jose. It goes to Jaromir Jagr of the New York Rangers, not Jonathan Cheechoo. The Rocket goes to Jonathan Cheechoo of the San Jose Sharks, who very much benefited from Joe Thornton playing on his line. Voice crack. The Vezina goes to Mika Kiprusoff of the Calgary Flames. This is his big year. After going to the finals in 2004, he followed up with a fantastic season performance. He also gets the Jennings, and his record is 42, 20, and 11 with a .923 save percentage. So he played, let me calculate this, 62 plus 11, 73 games that year. Goalies should not be playing that much. That's how you burn one out, and look what happened in the playoffs. They lose in 7 games to the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. First team All-Stars. On the left wing, you got Ovechkin, center Thornton, right wing Jagr, left defenseman Niedermeyer, right defenseman Lidstrom, Mika Kiprusoff in net. Second team All-Stars, Danny Heatley, who also had 50 goals this year. I hate when people say 50 in 07 for Danny Heatley. He had 50 goals in 06 too. He was that good. I hate that people make a joke out of him because he was really good. He had 5, 6 40-goal seasons, 2 50-goal seasons, and was just an absolute beast. Eric Stahl with the second team All-Star, never really got back up to that. He had 100 points that year, never got back to that. Daniel Alfredson, of course, on the right wing. Defense, Zubov and Chara, and Brodeur in net. So right there you got Anaheim, Detroit, Dallas, and that's still Ottawa, Zdeno Chara. He's not even in Boston yet. Brodeur, of course, because he wins every other Vezina besides the one Kiprusoff one. And then we can get into free agency and trades. So at the start of the year, this is 2 years of free agency. You got 2004, the 2004-2005 free agency, and you got 2005 going into the 2005-2006 season free agency. Peter Forsberg goes to Philadelphia. Paul Kariya goes to Nashville. Darian Hatcher goes to Philadelphia after he's bought out by Detroit. We talked about compliance buyouts last time. Darian Hatcher did not come well into the new era. His big, mean purpose on the defense is just to beat the hell out of the other team. That doesn't work anymore in this NHL. The rules are carried to a lot more. There's a lot more penalties being called. That's why scoring went up so much this season. This 2006 and 2007, the scoring goes way up. 2008, it comes back down again, which we'll get into. Ziggy Palffy, at the end of his career here, goes to Pittsburgh. Andrew Brunette to Colorado. Eric Lindros goes to Toronto for a year. Tony Amonte, after being bought out, goes to Calgary. Pavel Demitra to LA. Nikolai Khabibulin to Chicago. I wish we had him in 2009-10 because having the Bulin wall in net would have been a lot better than having Niemi or Hue in net. That's a what if for another time. What if the roster, what 2010 roster would have been in my image? Curtis Joseph goes to Phoenix after not a great stint in Detroit. Ray Whitney goes to Carolina. He's a big part of this team. Jason Allison to Toronto. Marty Straka to the Rangers, who got older a bit in that way. Scott Niedermeyer to Anaheim. That's a big one. Peter Bondra to Atlanta. John LeClaire to Pittsburgh after he's bought out in Philly. Chris Osgood goes back to Detroit. However, he is hurt for the playoffs, so Manny Legacy, or I'm not sure if it was he that was hurt, but Manny Legacy is the one that starts in the playoffs. That's another thing for Ottawa. Ray Emery's actually the starter in net for the series. Dominik Hasek gets hurt at the Olympics this year. If he doesn't get hurt, who knows what happens, but Hasek in Ottawa there's a good chance Ottawa would have beaten Buffalo. I mean, Buffalo was riding a rookie Ryan Miller. A lot of rookies in this rookie goalies. Montreal had Hue. Buffalo had Miller. Carolina, of course, had Cam Ward. Brizgalov was in Anaheim. He was playing when Jaguar didn't really go up to par against Colorado. A lot of rookie goalies there. Anyway, moving on. Corey Stillman to Carolina. He's the second leading point scorer of the 2006 playoffs. Brian Leach goes to Boston. Should have never left New York. Alex McGillney goes back to New Jersey. I didn't even know he played this long. Gary Roberts, Martin Jelena, and Joe Nieuwendyk all go to Florida. This is when Mike Keenan's GM in Florida, and he loves his 80s Oilers and 80s Flames and 90s Blackhawks players and 94 Rangers, and he goes to Florida, signs these guys, and kind of pieces out. Yeah, but first he trades Luongo, then he pieces out. But speaking of trades, we start with... I really wanted to include a ton of trades on here. I did the most important ones. Some of them you can't see below the board, but I did as much as I could, I promise. I couldn't see anything else beneath here. Starting with August 2nd, 2005, Chris Pronger is traded to Edmonton for Eric Brewer, Jeff Wojciechowski, and Doug Lynch. This is amazing for Edmonton until it isn't, which we'll get into next video. Next season video. August 3rd, 2005, Michael Pekka is traded to Edmonton for Mike York and a 4th-round pick. I didn't go into who those picks ended up being. This is just on the surface level what it was. Mike Pekka ends up being a big part of that Oilers team, although he is older at this stage. August 23rd, 2005, Danny Heatley, after the car accident that ended up killing a teammate of his when he was under the influence driving, he's traded to Ottawa understandably for Marian Hossa and Greg DeVries. This trade works out fantastically for both teams. And Hossa was excellent in Atlanta. He had a 100-point season in Atlanta, so what did Atlanta do? They traded him away for nothing. Along with Pascal Dupuis, which we'll get to. That will definitely be a trade in the 2007-2008 video. November 15th, 2005, Sergei Fedorov and a 5th-round pick are traded to Columbus for Francois Beauchemin and Tyler Wright going back to Anaheim. For Fedorov, he's older at this point, and Burke didn't like him. Brian Burke becomes the GM in Anaheim. Burke didn't like Fedorov, and he doesn't like Sergei Fedorov. Chemistry issues he cited. He traded basically everyone that the previous management came in. They brought in Peter Sikora. He traded Peter Sikora during the season to the Rangers, although that one's not on the board. Sandis Ozolic, who they brought in during the 2003 run, guess what? He's gone off. I believe he's traded to Florida. And Florida just misses the playoffs as well, somehow. November 30th, the day of the big trade. November 30, 2005, Joe Thornton goes to San Jose for Marco Sturm, Brad Stewart, and Wayne Primo. Not a bad return, and people would say that at that time that was not enough. And Boston didn't let anyone know they were trading Thornton, and why, I don't know. December 5th, 2005, I want to include this one simply for my Blackhawks purposes. Patrick Sharp and Eric Maloche are traded to Chicago for Matt Ellison and a 3rd-round pick. Steal for Chicago right there. January 30th, 2006, Doug Waite and the rights to Rahamaki are traded to Carolina for Boleris, Zigomanis, the rights to Conberg, a 1st and 2/4 going back to St. Louis. St. Louis was in a tire fire at this point. March 8th, 2006, at the deadline, Dwayne Rollison is picked up for the Oilers. I even forgot to mention January 26th. Edmonton acquires Yaroslav Spacek. Chicago gets the rights to Samalainen. I'd never heard of him. But March 8, 2006, Rollison goes to Edmonton for a 1st and a 3rd, going back to Minnesota. This is the deadline, you can tell. March 8, 2006, Jose Theodore is traded to Colorado for David Avisher going to Montreal. And of course, what's known between Montreal and Colorado? Montreal gave Waugh to Colorado in exchange for Tebow. Tebow was traded from Chicago to Pittsburgh here as well. Tebow, I love Jocelyn Tebow. And then, of course, Avisher now goes to Montreal when Jose Theodore, who's a fantastic goaltender for Montreal a few years ago, is now out to Colorado. So, similarity there. And Theodore fell quickly, even though he played a long time, he did fall quickly. March 9, 2006, Mark Recchi is traded to Carolina for Nordgren, Kolonos, and a 2nd going to Pittsburgh. March 9, 2006, Sergei Samsonov is traded to Edmonton for Marty Resner, Jan Stasny, and a 2nd-round pick. That concludes those were the important trades that had big influence to do with what happened in the playoffs, or that were just of significant note enough to me to write them down. Of course, you see Carolina on here. Carolina was in a position they'd never been in. They were expected, well, they weren't expected, but they had a chance to do things in the playoffs. That's why they basically gave up everything for Doug Waite, Mark Recchi. I'm not sure if there was anyone else they brought in at the time. I don't think there was, but those were the 2 big names who helped them win a Stanley Cup there. And of course, those were rentals, pure rentals there. For Carolina, they won the Stanley Cup. They did it with the help of a lot of guys. They did everything they could to win it, and they did, which pays off fantastically. And then the fall-off happens. 2007, they narrowly missed the playoffs. 2008, they narrowly missed the playoffs. 2009, they're back in. 10 years, they don't make it until modern era. The modern team that we have now is the Carolina team that makes it back to the playoffs. But that's going to be all I have for you guys in this one. This is the 2005-2006 NHL season. Let me know any memories you have from this season or anything you have to add. A lot of rule changes, a lot of upsets in the standings in the Western Conference. It placed out in the East. And this is how it's kind of going to be the setup for going season by season. I like my history videos, and the hockey guy was definitely an influence on me doing history videos because I enjoyed history videos. And I know it may seem like I'm doing a kind of a copy of what he did. Definitely some inspiration taken from him, not an exact copy. I wanted to include some of my own trades, and I kind of want to talk about it my own way because I have my own way of talking about it, not having been there and not having seen the events myself. It's all looking back from a perspective of I've watched the games and I know what happened as well while not knowing anything going into it. So that's going to be all I have for you guys on this one. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. If you made it all the way through, don't mind hitting the like button, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more of this. I shall see you all in the next one. Have a good one.